Hello and welcome to the Change Gang podcast with me, your host, Laura Ordile. I'm here to help you hold on to your sanity and your soul as you move through big change in your life. I'm here to guide you, inform you, and hopefully help you to triumph over trauma and the long list of symptoms that come along with it. This podcast series is to bring knowledge, share stories, and open up conversation around hope for those of you that suffer with the difficulties that present themselves in your life from diagnosed or undiagnosed trauma. Labeled or not, I know you need help, and so do those that have graciously taken the time to have these conversations with me. So let's get to it. Welcome to the week, Change Gang. I hope it's been a good one so far and that the week ahead looks wonderful for you. And today, we're going to talk a little bit about depression because I think it's so important and I think it gets missed a lot. And it's also something that's sometimes a little bit of a, buzzword, or it's a buzz thing that people kind of toss out there in a way that it really shouldn't be tossed out there. But depression shows up in so many different ways, and I don't think people understand that a lot of the things that they're feeling might actually be depression. Sadness, of course, that's the one that when people say they talk about depression, or they say I'm depressed, I'm feeling sad, I feel empty, all of those things. That's often the number one thing that people will relate back to depression. However, here's some other things that come along with that. Irritability, frustration, restlessness, definitely anger, guilt, helplessness, a lack of energy or concentration. That one most people kind of feel and they know. Sleep issues, eating issues, so much more. Eating disorders can often be related to depression. But I hope you heard the one that often people miss, and that's anger. Anger, irritability, frustration, restlessness. They won't clue into that being related to depression. Oftentimes people say you have an anger issue, or you're so angry, or gosh, you're really irritable lately, something like that. But they don't connect it to the fact that maybe that person, maybe you, are depressed. So it's important to know all of the different things that are in there. So what does that mean? Ooh, I'm depressed. Well, and how did I get that way? I read, when I was doing some research on this, kind of looking, because I always try to look up and see what it is that if I'm saying it, that it's correct, first of all. And this popped up when I was doing a little bit of research, that 75%, how huge is that, of depression is related to childhood trauma. 75% is related to childhood trauma. And over half of that, 37% of that, is multiple traumatizations. Multiple. They've experienced multiple traumas in their life. That's a lot. That's really a lot. And so when I'm working with people, because I work with people in trauma, this happens to be the week that the podcast is around trauma. They won't realize that sometimes what they're feeling it's not actually the sleep issue. It's mixed in with the depression, which is in relation to the trauma. And so it's not just about covering up and fixing that one little tiny thing, that sleep issue. It's about saying, okay, there's a sleep issue. Is that related back to trauma? Oftentimes, yes. most of the time, yes, I have found I don't know the statistics on that or what that is, but I will say that in the work that I do, most of the time it's related back to some form of trauma. And the work that I do in hypnosis goes and clears that trauma, the root of that trauma, the moments that are causing all of those little stems and branches to grow off of that root issue, which can be the sleep issues, the anger, the depression, the eating issues, all of that. But something I want you to know too is that depression can sometimes be something that people really struggle through. I've had situational depression where the situation I was in, I found myself being all the things that it talks about in depression, having sleep issues, lack of energy, concentrations, feeling helplessness, being irritable, all those things. But I realized in that time frame of what was going on in my life, I've had it like after surgery. I know it was really difficult, kind of depressive time for me. And I had all of those things going on, and I checked myself and said, oh, all right, I am in that depression mode, but it's related back to this trauma that my body had, the surgery that my body had. And so, okay, I know that this is going to be all right. It's going to clear. It's not based on the in-depth stuff that like I work with right now. But do I have other issues that I've had to go in and clear and work with to go in and do that? Yes. And it is at the root of those things that had to be cleared out. Because something you need to remember is that all of these different branches and things, even in depression, all of the different branches of depression are something that narrows down and down and down into that trauma. And that trauma, there's a root to it. There's a cause. And when we can go in and clear that, nothing can branch off of it anymore. That's wonderful. That's interesting and exciting and so amazing. But in the meantime, when we do clear those things, I want you to know something, because people often expect that when they make a change in their life, that they're going to go from feeling horrible and down and maybe suicidal, maybe apathetic, maybe all of the things, anger, something like that, to feeling the outstanding joy, the amazing happiness of life, living in a whole new wonderful way. And I want you to know that that is a bit of a process. It's a change that comes, but it doesn't snap you from one day to the next. When we pull the root out that's there, you're able to now function, and it's like, oh, I do feel different. I do feel interestingly different. Does that mean you're going to feel joy in that moment? No, not necessarily. Maybe you will. That would be wonderful. But there is this spiral of emotions, or this ladder of emotions, that we often have to kind of take ourselves to and through. So when you're down in this place of despair, you might come up the next day to uncomfortable. And then the next day, you might come up to meh, kind of okay, I think. And then maybe as you continue, you come into okay. And then you move into feeling pretty good. And then into happiness. And then comes joy. And you can experience it fully in that moment. Where before, if you had not taken that cause out, if you had not cleared that, you couldn't even climb that ladder. You couldn't get past maybe meh. Maybe you couldn't even get past despair. But even if you got into happiness, maybe there was something that just was like, something's still not right. I don't feel right. But now there's a clarity in that. There's something that's like, ooh, everything has changed. Something has really been affected within me. And through that, then you get to experience the fullness of the emotions. That doesn't mean you're going to stay up on the top of that ladder every day. You might come down. You might go into despair again. Maybe there's a death in the family and you really are sad and you sink down into that. But you will not stay in that. You will not come into overwhelm and the depth of anxiety that you had before, or the depth of anger or guilt or helplessness. You experience it in the way that we're meant to, almost like jumping into a pool and maybe swimming over to the other side, and then you come up and out of it. You don't stay in that pool of despair. You're not meant to. And just on the happiest days, we jump into the pool of happiness and we swim for however long, and then we get out. And maybe we're just in an okay place. Maybe we do have some of the other issues. We're human. You're, as far as I know, unless, you're not, then that's your deal. But for me, as far as I know, I'm mostly human. I say mostly because I'm pretty sci-fi and I do think, I'm a little weird sometimes. But I am in the realm of all of the humanity and all that represents, all of the emotions, all of the things that are there. And it's like going through this beautiful, wonderful roller coaster ride of life. And I get to dip down maybe into, ooh, that's kind of scary or interesting. And then I go flying up into the fun and the adventure. And then I just enjoy the moment around some of the curves and the relaxation. And then maybe it dives down again and it's again, ooh, no, wow. I don't know what it's going to be, but that's life. And we're meant to experience all of that. And we're meant to experience it just like that. In flow. All the way in flow. Not stuck down at the bottom of one of those dips. Not being able to get up to the next side. And also not stuck. You know how you're going up and up and up on a roller coaster and it stops for a minute and you're like, oh, what's happening? You're not meant to stay right there either. Because now you're going to come up and over and gain momentum and move through all the adventures of life. It's going to be fun and interesting, and you'll let all of that flow through you over and over and over again. Maybe you go on another ride over here, or maybe you go over here, Pirates of the Caribbean, or to the Small World, or to Thunder Mountain. You can tell I've been to Disney in my life, but it might be something else. They have all the different ones in all the different areas. I don't know the names of all of them, but it might be an adventure of some kind that maybe you keep going on the same one and that's the one that you're choosing right now. But then you want to get off and go on another one. That's okay too. It might catch you off guard with some of the new ways that things are going to happen. So know that if you do experience something, stay in the momentum of flow. Stay in the momentum of, it's okay to feel that. That's right and good in my life. And I'm going to feel that and move on. Depression is when you get stuck swimming in one of those maybe icky ponds, the murky ones, and you just can't get yourself out of it. You can. You just have to, first of all, ask for help. Ask for help. If you know that you are not getting yourself out of that situation, reach out to someone, me or someone else, and say, I'm stuck. I need a hand. And then I can help get you out of that. Clear the stuff. Maybe something's wrapped around you, holding you down, and we need to clear that, to cut you loose from that. Let's do that. Absolutely, let's do that. So know that. And also, a couple other things. So I mentioned that ladder of emotion. Take a look at that. I can't remember what it's called. It's either the spiral of emotion or it might be just ladder of emotion, but you can look that up and there's a visual representation of that you can go, okay, and if you want it and you can't find it, you get in touch with me, I'll send it to you. Look at that and give yourself a break that you haven't gone from one extreme to the other, that you are building yourself into maybe being in the middle of that where things are really good so that you don't dip way down too often. Maybe you don't go too high too often. You're in that nice flow of all of the fun things that are there. And if you do have a bad day, you get back out of it pretty quickly. Here's another thing. Take all the tiny wins in your life. Notice the tiny wins. Maybe if you've been really depressed or down, a tiny win might be that you got out of bed today. Even if it's for a little while. You took a shower. That's great. Maybe you're beyond that a little bit and you're functioning more, but you don't make your bed every day. Even if you don't make it marine style and biffy and perfect, pull the covers up, straighten them out so that when you walk in later that day, there's order, even just a little tiny bit of it. And there's a sense of, oh, I did that. That feels so good. I accomplished something today. Take those little tiny wins that are there. If you're feeling really lethargic and you have a lack of energy, maybe it is getting up and doing 5 minutes of something. 5 minutes of something you love, like painting. I don't care if you get one color out and one brush and paint it on the thing and that's all you do. Because then you have to clean your brush and put away the paint and that stuff. So it might be a whole 10 minutes. But if that's all you can do, that's awesome. Do it. Maybe it's that you go wash 2 dishes. There's a sink full of dishes, but you just can't bring yourself to go do that. Go wash 2 dishes. 1 dish. If that's all you can do, go wash 1 dish. And then maybe an hour later, 2 hours later, you go wash 1 more. And even if you don't get through that whole sink of dishes today, you did some. And I want you to cheer yourself on for that. It all depends on where you are. Some people might go, that's ridiculous. Who can't go do some dishes? Let me tell you, I've been in a spot where it was too much physically for me. I was physically in a chronic illness and I could not get up and I couldn't clean a whole bathroom. I could clean the toilet, maybe. There were days I couldn't even do that. But I gave myself tiny wins. So if I could get up and even just clean one part of the toilet, and I know that sounds ridiculous, but that was all I could do that day. I was like, okay, that's great. Then I'm going to go lay back down. I'm going to let myself rest and let your body tell you it's okay to rest. At the same time, we need to keep it moving. Your body needs to move to be okay. You know, if you sit around or you lay around, it gets tired and it gets stuck and then it doesn't feel good. So take those. If you can't go on a walk or you can't get on the treadmill or you can't do exercise, walk from one end of your house to the other. I don't care how tiny it is. I don't care how big it is. If you can't walk all the way from one side to the other, walk halfway. And then tomorrow try 3/4 and the next day all the way. But give yourself tiny wins, okay? Now here's the last one, and I know this is going to be hard for some people who have depression, but I want you to try anyway. Because there was a point somewhere in your life, even if you've been depressed on and off all your life, there was something somewhere in your life where the whole part of you, your whole body, your mind, everything said yes. Yes to an experience, to an adventure, to something wonderful. And you could feel it inside of you as you think right now. You might have trouble finding that, but kind of think about that and just start to bring yourself, ooh, when did my body say yes? Absolutely yes to something. And I can think of my brain will take me. Your subconscious knows everything. And it knows, even if that little tiny experience is buried deep inside of you, it knows that it's there. So ask it, where was that? When did that happen for me? And you might have a flash of something. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's when you were at the grocery store and you saw that favorite chocolate bar that you love and then your whole body said yes. Take that moment right there. And use that moment to do some pattern interrupts, some breaking up of the thoughts that you have when you're going down into the anger, the frustration, the sadness, the emptiness. When your mind starts going there, stop it with a quick breath, a 16-second breath, 4 breaths, 4 seconds in, holding for 4 seconds, releasing for 4 seconds, and just being for 4 seconds. And that right there will interrupt everything. And if you can add into that, as you come into the holding part of it, that memory of yes. Oh my gosh, yes. I remember that. That was heavenly. Oh my goodness. And then you go and you let go of the rest of that. You will still feel that yes moment in your body. And even if it's for a few more seconds or a minute, or maybe it keeps you out of the difficult thoughts for an hour, a day, however long it is. Remember that. Remember that feeling right there, and then come back to that. When again your mind starts to take you to a difficult place, come back to that yes moment and that 16-second breath. And you will start to guide your mind to find those for yourself. And then you'll start to find even more. And it's like, oh, I forgot about that yes memory, and I forgot about that. Oh my goodness, yes, I love that. And I do actually have that yes moment with a particular chocolate, so maybe that's why it came to mind. But maybe it's a moment of sitting on your porch in a beautiful time of day. Maybe it's at sunset and you look out and it's just a nice, comfortable breath, but your whole body felt relieved and wonderful, and yes. Or maybe it was a moment with your child or someone you love. Maybe it was a moment in nature or a moment on a roller coaster. Find your yes and pull that in as often as you can when you start to go down the other roads. So there you go. Remember the ladder or that spiral of emotions, and give yourself a break, that you're not shifting all the way, jumping from one end of the ladder to the other. Take the next step. Give yourself some tiny wins and find that yes. And remember the 16-second breath. And you will start to shift things for yourself. You absolutely will. That's what I've got for you today. I hope that it was helpful to you. Maybe it's helpful to someone that you know, and you can pass it along. And of course, I'm here to chat with you. You can come and find me on my website, on my social medias. They're all under Laura Ordile, and I would love to connect with you. I hope that you have a happy week ahead, and I will meet you same time next week right here. Ciao. I hope today's episode was interesting and helpful to you in some way. If so, find someone to share it with. Maybe it will help them too. If you'd like to know more about anything discussed here today, you can find all the places to connect with me and the guest speakers in the show notes. Or go to lauraordile.com, LauraOrdile.com, and you can reach out to me there. Until next time, ask when you need help, be kind to yourself, and have a happy day.